Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Perhaps the most famous face at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games when it comes to female gymnastics is 24-year-old American superstar Simone Biles. Biles, heading into the current game, said that she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, which impacted her performance during the individual all-round competition. It, however, came as a surprise when Biles decided to withdraw from the Olympics, citing mental health challenges behind her decision. A statement from the USA Gymnastics has said, after further medical evaluation, Simone Biles has withdrawn from the final individual all-round competition at the Tokyo Olympic Games in order to focus on her mental health. We wholeheartedly support Simone's decision and applaud her bravery in prioritizing her well-being. Her courage shows yet again why she is a role model for so many. Here's what Biles had to say. Once I came out here to compete, I was like, no, mental health is not there, so I just need to let the girls do it and focus on myself. The often controversial American broadcaster and journalist Piers Morgan also spoke out on the issue, and he's saying, new. Simone Biles calls herself the greatest of all time, but no GOAT would quit on their teammates like that, costing them an Olympic gold medal. Get back out there, Simone. You're a great champion, not a quitter. Joining us now to help discuss the current situation with Simone Biles and mental health issues in sport is Applied Sports Psychologist Dr. Olivia Rose Esperance. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're starting, from the top of this situation. Simone Biles, of course, saying, you know what? No competition is worth my mental health. Did she do the right thing, from a psychological point of view? How did you analyze this entire scenario and how it panned out?
So from a psychological point of view, there are many angles that we can look at her decision. One, the sports psychology, psychological discipline and practitioners are very pleased with her decision, and it shows the parity between mental and physical health. And both are very important, even though over the years, sport has put more emphasis on the physical aspect of it. But Simone's decision to withdraw from competition, to some, as you would have mentioned previously, the journalists, about it seeming as she's quitting, is not perceived that way from a sports psychological perspective, and it shows great courage in her ability to say that it is okay not to be okay, and to not put herself, teammates, at further risk of various types of injuries, be it physical and psychological.
Something Piers Morgan spoke about, the GOAT, the greatest of all times. And we say that loosely, but on Twitter, Simone Biles, by her name, by her verified tick, there is actually the emoji of a goat, as well as, on her leotard, there are prints of the goat and whatnot. She's 24 years of age. Talk to us about, the pressure that athletes come under when they're ascribed this goat tag, because I was thinking about it. Most times when we discuss goat and athletes, they're midway through their career, they're about to retire. Simone is 24 years old.
Right, but 24 years old in Simone's sport is considered on the older side of that particular sport, even though in her overall developmental stage and chronological age, she's pretty young at 24 years old. However, the greatest of all times can be synonymous to being perceived as invincible. The champion, as was mentioned, champions don't quit. And there is no denying the great talent that some of these athletes have, and especially to be dubbed the GOAT, the greatest of all time. That in and of itself can be pressuring. Also, being of a particular race for a sport that considers or has usually had of different ethnic backgrounds being on the top. So Simone, being in this space since 2013 to now, is a lot of pressure, not just on her as an athlete, but as a Black athlete and living up to all these expectations. So her decision to withdraw and to focus on herself, though maybe perceived in many different ways, depending on the angle that you look at it, is one from a sports psychological perspective that is considered as being very courageous.
Doc, tell me something. Chris Taylor here. Having been someone who has worked with many international athletes and so on at different games and so on, would this have been a situation that she would have, let us say, confided with her sports psychologist before making it? Is this a kind of situation? Walk me through what would happen if let us say you were the sports psychologist there in the grounds of Tokyo. Is this a case where Simone would have come to her sports psychologist and discussed it and then come to a joint decision, or it's something that you would advise on, or is this solely in her shoes?
Okay, so first of all, let's just separate the two. I'm trying to break down the question in ways that it's understandable. As a psychologist and as a sports psychologist, especially if we do not tell our clients what to do. We guide them and we provide them with the best options given the condition that is presented. So I am sure it's possible that she's possibly working with a sports psychologist or has some form of psychological support with her, given the team that she represents as well, and they place great priority on mental health. So the decision that she would have made, in the same way that an athlete who is physically injured and not capable to perform,
right,
certain medical decisions from a physical perspective has to be made. It's the same thing when it comes on to mental health. It's just that we do not place as much importance or significance on it because it's one of those things that many athletes don't speak about. It's not encouraged, and the stigma associated with it, which again makes her decision one of great courage.
Right. Well, with us, we have an athlete herself, Danielle Bowie, and she will be talking to us now about, Danielle, I want to find out from your point of view. We heard from the psychologist. Did you ever feel that sort of pressure when you competed at the, at the highest stage and, felt as if you wanted to step away? Talk to us about your own experience with mental pressure.
Well, for me, the internal challenges that I faced with mental health, fear, self-doubt, those were geared around performances. So Simone Biles is just talking about mental health in general. What we normally see when coaches and athletes talk about mental health, it's just to tweak enough doubt, get rid of the fear, to focus on getting back to competition. And now we're seeing Simone, Naomi stepping away from competition. So their mental health well-being is seeing them step away from sport. So I am definitely not used to that. Towards the end of my running career was when I really had most challenges walking away from the sport. That was a very painful time for me mentally.
Right.
But while competing, most of my mental health focus was just on how to compete, how to maximize my performance.
Yeah. Do you find that athletes now, find it easier to speak out when they're going through stuff as to when you competed?
Definitely the language or the narrative around mental health has progressed, and I think that we're going to see more Naomi, more Simone. We're not used to that type of strength, so understandably the fans are upset, and the narrative that sports and mental toughness is really putting yourself aside and competing, entertaining the fans. We don't really think about the personal challenges, like what's going on in your head. We just want to see you perform well, win a medal.
Yeah, fans are unforgiving.
Yes.
And I think it's a misconception that a lot of people look at mental health as softness. They align it with softness, and I think that's a wrong perspective. You understand? And yes, she's only 24 years of age, but we're talking about a 25-time world medalist, a 19-time gold medalist. I mean, so this is somebody at the epitome of her career, epitome of her class, and so on. Now, to me, it showed great strength and leadership for her to make the decision, first of all, to come out and speak about her mental issues like that, because that to me A soft person couldn't do that. That takes a lot of courage to come out in the public media and admit that you're going through these issues and so on. And then to also build another athlete, because what she actually did as well was to say, well, look, I can't perform based on my mental state. And you could see that her focus was off. But from that, she actually introduced now another athlete who was able to rise to the occasion and so on. I thought that was great leadership on Simone's part as well. So, I mean, contrary to what a lot believe is softness, I actually think that was great strength and leadership by the American.
Definitely. And as we're about to wrap, we're going to bring back Olivia into the discussion to get the final word. Of course, you know, this Simone Biles withdrawing would have a lot of repercussions, a lot of backlash, you know, as a psychologist. And you know, Chris asked you if you were her psychologist, what would you say? And you said you won't give her advice. But, you know, if you had to just give some tips to dealing with the backlash now, Olivia, what would you say?
No, it's not that I would not give her advice. It's that there are myriad of reasons for any particular situation. And in Simone's case, as I mentioned earlier, and Naomi's case, it takes an enormous amount of courage to disclose that, hey, I am not well mentally. And I think, I'm not going to say you should ignore the backlash, but this has certainly opened up the platform for us to have greater discussions and become more aware of the importance of mental health and how it is linked to athletic performance at the highest level.
All right, well, we want to thank you again, Dr. Olivia Rose Esperance. Thanks for joining us, and of course, we'll connect again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we go to break. We'll be back.